Erin Oprea, welcome to the Tick Boot Camp podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
So, how did I do with pronouncing your name, Erin?
You did awesome. Like one of the only that ever nails it. It's
All right. Well,
okay.
I'm excited that I am one of the first people to interview you to properly pronounce your last name.
I appreciate it.
So, Erin, why don't you share with our folks a little about your background? Where'd you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
So I grew up in California. I'm from San Diego. I now live in Nashville. I went to high school here, but then I left again. So I grew up in California, very much a beach life, Carlsbad to be exact. And then I moved to Tennessee and went to high school just south of Nashville. And then it was a very different life. We grew up with horses and doing a bunch of camping and outdoorsy stuff. And ticks were nothing new to me then. I was like, a tick? I mean, I pulled off a million. I've never thought anything of them ever in my life. Um, and then got married young at 18. Decided, no, I moved back to California and then decided to join the Marine Corps at 20 and did 9 years in the Marine Corps. At that time, I did two tours to Iraq, and during my second tour is when I was appointed to lead the first all-female platoon that had ever been formed in the Marine Corps. Also, the first females that had ever been attached to the infantry. And so, yeah, so I worked with the infantry, and we searched all the women they couldn't search, all that kind of stuff in Fallujah during the big invasion of Fallujah back in
Holy cow.
2004 or 5. So I was there 03, 04, or 05. I don't remember if the invasion was in '04, at the end of '04 or the beginning of '05. I don't remember, but it all runs together. But yeah, so that's a little bit of my backstory. Oh, and then I got in, well, I was a certified trainer at 18, and then I joined the Marine Corps. And then as soon as I got out, I went back into training. So really, I've done Marine Corps and fitness my whole life.
All right.
And
Well,
so I,
there's a lot to unpack here, and I mean,
I know. And
holy cow!
then,
So let's go back to your childhood. First in California, you said, and then Tennessee. Is that where you spent most of
yeah,
your formative years?
yeah.
And of course, one of the things we've seen often in this podcast is outdoorsy folks, especially outdoorsy folks who cross that over with equestrian athletics, often find themselves coming in contact with ticks. And I guess my antenna went up when you said, "Yeah, coming in contact with ticks was something that was not strange to me." And I guess my question is, when you say it wasn't strange to you, was it not strange to you because you were given some formal training or education during your
No,
childhood about how to avoid coming in contact with ticks or what to do when you do come in contact with ticks? I mean, what was that part of your
no.
childhood about?
My dad just said, just pull them off with tweezers. You're fine. We never thought anything of it. So oddly enough, so I've never been scared of ticks. Like I never thought anything of it. I've just pulled them off and never once thought about them before. And I hadn't had a tick bite in, I mean, I've had a million, but I hadn't had one in, gosh, at least 15 years until I got this one, and this one did it all. And that
Okay.
was in the middle of downtown Nashville. So I wasn't out in the country.
So let's give folks a context from a timeline. So your childhood, I'm gonna define your childhood as prior to when you were 18 years old. Was it 18 when you had gotten married and 20 when you went into the Marine Corps?
Correct. And then
Okay.
divorced at 29 and
Okay.
remarried at 31.
Okay. So we have a lot of personal stuff to go through there too. And we want to get to when you had gotten sick, but I want to build out this tick experience. So you said you were bitten by ticks many, many times, and your dad kind of just took the position that, it's normal to come in contact with ticks with where you're growing up and the kinds of things you're doing, and all you do is pull them off and you move on with your day. That was largely your experience. There was no antibiotics, there were no herbs to enhance your immune system, there was no cleaning the location of the tick, there was none
Nope.
of that. It was just pick it off and be on your way.
And that's exactly what I did with the one that made me sick. So when the last one I got, I just pulled it off and never thought anything of it. I didn't get bullseye from it. I didn't get sick from it until I got sick.
Okay, so when you say the last one that made the difference, and I do want to build that out with you because um, very rarely, Erin, does someone go from tick bite to illness. In fact, it's very, very rare. And we've interviewed some of the leading experts on Lyme disease, and two of those experts who had written books and described this process of the likelihood of an illness happening shortly after tick bite is Dr. Bill Rawls, who, the brilliant doctor who wrote Unlocking Lyme and Cellular Wellness Solution and other books. And of course, then there's Dr. Phillips, who wrote the book Chronic, right? And both of them in their books talked about the illness path and how unlikely it is to go from tick bite to illness unless one of two things takes place. Either A, you're living in an immunosuppressive environment, like living in a high mold environment, or B, if you get bitten by multiple ticks, those are the rare circumstances where somebody goes from bite to illness. So give us that
I
piece of your
have a
story.
whole opinion on that one. And
Okay, please.
okay. So I got bit in September. I think it's either August, September, right in that time frame. I pulled the tick off me. Didn't
What
think
year is this? Where are you in your
this
life
is
at that time?
2025 in downtown Nashville, walking my dogs. I got it on me.
Okay.
So with that, I got alpha gal, Lyme, and Bartonella, all three.
Okay.
Now so I at the time, and I still am. I live a carnivore lifestyle, so that's the nutrition I follow. Well,
Okay.
with alpha gal, what happens? You can't eat
You
red
you
meat,
have you
right?
have an allergic reaction to red meat.
I didn't know I had it though, right? And so I was didn't think a thing of the tick. I continued my carnivore. I would say by the end of maybe it was the beginning of October, my feet started hurting really bad. So that's one. And I was starting to get swelling in my eyes. Like right here would start puffing up. And I was like, oh, it must be my goggles. Something was swimming because I also do Ironmans. I train for Ironmans. And so I was like, must be something in the pool. I didn't think too much in it. And it just kept swelling and it kept swelling. And then it started swelling down here. I was like, gosh, they must have changed the chlorine in the pool. I was dead set it was a pool. But I still kept eating red meat. So at this point, now I had a really good solid terrain in my body. Like I had a really good metabolic system. Everything was good. My inflammation was low because I do monthly blood work and everything was good until it wasn't. And when I say it wasn't, everything went to complete shit show. And I
You
think
crashed.
that's when I think Lyme and Bartonella was the feet thing. I had terrible nerve pain, like debilitating walking. I could no longer walk my dogs. I couldn't, and I was training for Ironmans. I couldn't even walk a block. And so eventually it turned into full face swell ups. And I kept having them over and over, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I was like, I'm not eating anything different. I mean, and I lived the most boring lifestyle. I ate the exact same thing at the exact same time every single day. So it's like, what is it? Is it something putting on my skin? So I went through all these things trying to figure it out. Went to the doctor, and I finally got diagnosed December 29th with alpha gal.
Okay, so give me again the timeline between the bite and the diagnosis.
So the bite would have been like somewhere mid-August to the beginning of September, and then the diagnosis was December 29th.
So it's not
Same
even a
here.
month, or maybe a little more than a month between the bite and at least the alpha gal diagnosis.
No, no, no. The bite was in August, and then December was the diagnosis.
Oh,
So
December.
December,
Okay,
December
so
29th.
the month of Christmas. So you get your bite in the late summer, early fall, and now in early winter, Christmas season, you get your diagnosis.
Yes. But
Okay.
all the stuff started pretty, it all started in October, like the swelling, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then I went to the allergist and he called it right away. He's like, this is alpha gal. I was like, how can it be alpha gal? I eat meat all the time. He's like, nope, this is alpha gal. And he's right. The blood work came back with it.
Okay. So when did you find out that you also were suffering from Bartonella and from what it was Bartonella
Lyme,
and
Lyme,
I'm sorry?
Lyme,
Lyme.
Lyme disease.
Hmm.
And Lyme. All right, so Borrelia.
Yes, correct. And that was so I went a different route than some people might call it quackery. I went to two different muscle testing people that don't talk to each other. Didn't know that I went to the other one, and both of them got the exact same results.
Okay.
And
So
that was the same day I got diagnosed. I went and did that at one, and then like maybe 4 days later, went to the other one, and he's like, "Oh, if you," I didn't even go to him to get tested. I went to him because he was going to put the SAT in my ear, which is SAT, the acupuncture in the ear, and he's like, "Let's just test to see if you have anything else." I already knew that what I had been tested for, and I said, "Yeah, let's test," and he came back with the exact same results.
Okay. So let's we started to explore.
All right. I'm going to jump in here, Erin, because I
Totally.
think technical difficulties kicked in and you're
Yep.
experiencing that
Yep.
too, Erin, correct?
Yep. Yep.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more because you had a lot going on in a quick period of time. So alpha gal is extremely uncommon. So what I want to focus on is how did you get diagnosed so quickly? Was it you? Was it the doctors? Like
No.
what put that on your radar?
Definitely not me. It wasn't on my radar. I was just going in to get tested for allergies because I was like, my face is swelling and I can't pinpoint it. And it doesn't seem like it's a pool anymore. So I have to figure it out. So I went to him. And that's why I said, God put this allergist because I was like, most people's, the average diagnosis is 7 years.
Yeah.
And I said, how did he called it right away? Oh, he's back. He called it right away within 5 minutes. I have documents of every flare up I had, which was multiple. I have images of everything and the dates. I had everything. And he looked at a couple images. He said, "This is alpha gal." He said, "I will be shocked if your blood work doesn't come back with alpha gal." And I was like, and then I had heard of alpha gal, but I never thought anything of it really. Never read into it. It wasn't anything that's on my mind. And then I just went down the rabbit hole, and that's where I learned so much about alpha gal, which is insane. And they are predicting it to be in most Americans in the next 4 years because it's
Yeah.
spreading so crazy now.
Alpha gal is off the hook right now. So we live in Long Island here in New York, and it's always been prominent here. I mean, going back 10 years ago, a colleague of mine had it and his wife both got it. They ended up in the ER with anaphylaxis after eating a steak hours, like probably 6 hours later in the middle of the night, or maybe it was even 8. And they were some of the earlier cases, but now I know so many people with alpha gal, but
Yeah,
yet it's still so like, oh, what's that? What do you mean you can get bit by a tick and be be
yeah,
allergic to red meat, which is so crazy to me.
it is crazy. So all the reactions for me were in the middle of the night, and I had had steak all day. Like, well, I only eat 2 meals a day, and I eat red meat at both meals. And I every night is when a reaction would happen in the middle of the night. And I obviously end up now. I still have EpiPens just in case. I always take them with me. Um, and the sad thing is, the doctor's like, "Well, there's nothing you can do." And I was like, "That sounds
Well,
backwards to me."
yeah, and I think you've pushed through that, which we're going to get to in
Yeah,
a second, Erin.
because
But I
I'm
just want
back
to
to full on red meat now. I'm back to carnivore.
Oh, we're going to get there because
Okay.
but I want to build this out a little bit more because that is awesome to say that you're back to red meat after all this. Because look, red meat is a really powerful fuel source and it's good for your body. And candidly, chicken and red meat are a primary part of my diet that help me feel really well and keep my body running well after Lyme disease. So we're going to have to get into how you got there. But with alpha gal specifically, there are a lot of signs and symptoms that get ignored. I know so many people, a colleague today at work, rashes, random rashes, can't figure out why. And it could be a minor reaction to foods and exposure because of alpha gal here in Long Island, but nobody thinks of it. She's gone to doctors, she's gone to allergists. So can you describe specifically what your rashes look like, what your reactions look like, and then also what timing, because that matters, right? Middle of the night seems to be common. After eating steak seems to be common, or a high red meat meal. But people listening might be thinking, I might have alpha gal, but I'm not really sure. Should I get tested? Is it in my head? So can you give us more detail as far as what those rashes look like?
Okay, well, let's start with the first symptom I had that I would put back to alpha gal that I didn't relate, and that was diarrhea, like nonstop gut issues. And it's crazy. I hope you don't mind talking about poop because I think
No,
it tells
not
us
at
a lot.
all.
Okay,
Nope.
okay. So like I had the best poop every single day, exact time, perfect. And then all of a sudden, I went to like pooping in my pants, like diarrhea. I could like if I walked half a block, I'd poop in my pants. It was the craziest thing.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't know what's going on. Well, now I realize what it was. That was the first of, so that went on for, I mean, for months for me to figure out. And then it went from that, and then it started with just swelling right here, just in the inner corners. And then that would happen for a couple weeks. And I was like, gosh, I just can't figure out why I'm swelling. Is it
And when you
allergies?
said
Is
right
it
here, so this is going to be a video and audio podcast, depending on
so
where
it's
people
the
consume it. Can you describe?
inside of my eyes. So right at the inner eyelid is where
Okay.
it would swell up. And so then it went from that to then under my eyes swelling. And then it went from that to my whole face swelling, like to the point that my eyes were almost swollen shut. Like most people are like, you probably need to go to the emergency room. And then it went from that to spreading down my neck and chest and get all these little pussy little bumps,
Okay.
kind of
And that was all
rash.
new. That was never a symptom that kind of popped up later on in life. And that wasn't something that you dealt with as a young child, for example.
No, I've never had any of this stuff ever.
Got it.
And then it also, the very last reaction, which I got from a vitamin C serum, which is crazy because people think of it just as eating red meat. There's so much more that goes into it than that. But I got it from a vitamin C serum, and that's the one that went down my neck. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, I can feel my tongue like swelling.
Yeah.
And so I almost took my EpiPen. I did not, and ended up being fine. But that was my last one, and I haven't had another one since. And that would have been, I can look back at the date. I think it was like January 7th. I'd already
Got it.
cut out all red meat because I knew that I had it now at this point. I already knew I had it. And that was my last reaction after I found out. And it was a vitamin C serum that when I checked it, there's a thing that you can load for alpha-gal and you can scan everything. And it scanned good. And I still reacted to it. And it could have been cross-contamination or something where it was processed.
Right. So the gelatin generally is the filler in these types of vitamins, right? So the gelatin is a filler.
It wasn't that. It's a serum, one you put on your face.
Oh, even differently. Okay.
So
Interesting.
it was a pump you put on your face, and then you just put it on your skin. It's like
Got it.
vitamin C face stuff.
Yeah. So, Rich, we were kind of going over, we pulled back a little bit to describe what the signs and symptoms of alpha-gal were. And it started with just diarrhea, going from very normal bowel movements to really just, loose stool movements. And that was the first sign. Then it became, just to kind of recap these things, rashes on the inner sides of the eye, the really severe reaction of the tongue being numb, also spreading down into the chest, the rashes, all after eating steak and red meat many hours later. Those are the hallmark signs that Erin had experienced. So I'll hand it over back to you, Rich, to kind of keep walking through this.
All right, so, Erin, one of the things that I wanted to explore with you is this concept of the timeline between the tick bite and the illness. And specifically, what we generally learn is, as I've outlined for you, in most cases, there is a gap in time, generally a long gap in time between a tick bite or a series of tick bites and ultimately becoming sick. Because in most cases, your body can manage the bugs that you've been bitten with, and then at some point in some future, there's an immunosuppressive event, and the immunosuppressive event ultimately allows these bugs to take off and ultimately make you
Correct.
sick. And in hearing you describe your experience, sounds like we may have another
So
situation.
I do still question, and nobody will ever know. Did that tick give me the Lyme and Bartonella, or did I have the Lyme and Bartonella, and when my body became inflamed, then that became an issue? Because then I also had mold, I had parasites, my liver wasn't detoxing, like everything just went to shit because I think because I was eating nonstop red meat and just so allergic to it.
Right.
And
So
so
that's really
there's still a bunch of questions, like those questions can never be answered. Those are just, we don't know. When did I actually get it? But I'd never been sick. Like I've never been sick until I
so.
was sick with all of it.
So, Erin, but you were always uber fit, right? I mean, you were a fitness
Yeah.
professional from when you were
Yeah.
18 years old. You were in the military. You were a fitness
Yeah.
professional military. You came out of the military. You were a fitness professional again. When you were always uber fit. So the question is was your immune system able to manage everything because of the lifestyle choices you were making and the fitness level you had? And then did something happen when you ultimately suffered that tick bite? Again, was it the alpha gal that triggered it? Was it your immune system suffering from other things? Because now you started to, it
Yeah.
sounds like, again, you had a lot of these things dogpiling on you and you had a lot of problems that you seemingly didn't have before, especially somebody who was regularly monitoring, your systems. And I don't know if you were regularly blood testing back then, but it sounds like you may have been. And maybe you would have picked up the mold issues and these other issues, but your body was managing it all until it couldn't.
Yeah. I wasn't picking, I had none of those issues. I had no feeling issues, my inflammation, all my markers were good. My hormones were amazing. So I had no other issues until all of them became an issue. Like
Right.
they said, my immune system had shut down. So they're like, you can't do, I always forget the word. You know, when you can't do too much because you'll herx.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Herx. I always forget the word.
Herxheimer. Yes. Herxheimer
Yeah.
reactive. Yeah.
And they're like, you're in such bad shape. If you do much, like I couldn't even sauna. I couldn't do anything at first until we got everything to calm down a little bit. And then I did 12 days up. I don't know if you want me to go over what I did. Or
Yeah,
you
no, I
want.
mean we're going to go there, but I just want to get a sense of what was going on in your life at that time, right? Because everything crashed, and the question really is what caused the crash, right?
The
Was
alpha gal did.
Okay, so let me tease that out before you come to that conclusion. I mean, you're probably right. Obviously, you know your body, but I just want to get a sense of what was going on in your life. Were there any physical stresses? Meaning, were you training really hard for some event? Because
No different than I always train. I train for Ironman, so it's not. I've been doing it for years, so it's not anything new. So it's actually I was at a lower training block at that point than anything. So it
okay,
was nothing abnormal.
one of the things we learned, Erin, is that cardiovascular exercise will lower your T cell rate, and as a result of doing uber cardio, you will or aerobic training, you will in many cases will make yourself more vulnerable, which is why I was asking you that question.
Yes, I do believe that, but I also don't believe that. I
Tell me
believe
why.
that if you train hard, recover harder. So it's all I feel like in your adrenals and if your hormones can stay balanced, but if you train too hard and you don't have the proper fueling, proper recovery, that's when your immune system's going to go down. That's when you're going to get sick.
Okay, so you think as a result of having lived this rigorous lifestyle all the way back to your childhood, certainly through the time you were in the Marine Corps and then as a fitness professional, you think that your body was accustomed to that rigor of aerobic exercise, and you don't think it was immunosuppressive at all, especially at that time.
No, I don't think that just because of the lifestyle that I lived when I was younger was it. I think the things I had learned along the way, because I used to do things that were terrible for probably my immune system, that I've learned a lot since then. So I would say younger, I was just the balls to the wall. There was like recovery. What's that? Like that never even crossed my mind. Oh, you run a marathon, then you go play some soccer games. Like, what's the big deal? That used to be how my mind worked. And I don't think that way anymore. I'm very much train hard, recover harder. And so
Okay.
I'm very, very, very in tune with like I'm fat adapted. So I try to make sure that my fat is perfect. Like my fuel is perfect. Like I don't train with a bunch of carbs to keep my inflammation low. So I do a very different approach than the so-called triathlete usually does. I have a very different approach because I do it carnivore. So I don't.
Okay. So
So I
at
try
the
to keep
time that you
my.
had gotten sick, well, let's focus on the time that you had gotten sick with,
Okay.
which was in 2025. Everything from a fitness standpoint, everything from a hormonal standpoint, everything from a dietary standpoint, everything from the environment that you were living in, including any moldy environment you're living in, and there were no personal stresses, meaning you were everything was in homeostasis in your entire life except now the stick
Yeah,
fight.
I had retired. I was literally just training and designing clothes. I mean, I was in a actually I've been in a really good spot the last couple of years. Now, I used to live the most stressful life. I mean, I was working 80-hour weeks, balls to the wall, sleep, what's that? But for the last couple of years, sleep has been sleep, circadian rhythm, lymphatic, all that stuff is a huge part of my life every day. So I live a very different life than what I did live, but only for like the last 2 years have I really turned switch. I used to be like work, 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 and one day you'll have time to sleep.
All right.
And
So you were balanced. You were physically balanced. You were emotionally balanced. You were spiritually balanced. You were in a good place. You
good
finally
spot.
found an opportunity to be balanced until your immune system crashed.
Correct.
Okay. So talk to us now. Give us all the details. I mean, you just shared with Matt when I had my technical difficulties about the alpha gal symptoms. What else did you have going on with your body?
My feet were really bad. I'd gone to a podiatrist and I was like, my feet hurt so bad. And it's the same spot on both. It was very I was like, it's just very nervy. And they said, well, you don't have any arthritis in your feet. So I think it's just your bunions. I was like, I've had these bunions since I was 20. I'm not running any more, any less. Like, there's no way that both feet started hurting at the exact same time. And he's like, well, it's just luck of the draw. It's your bunions. And so I didn't really, he's like, well, maybe we need to look into doing bunion surgery. I was like, nah, I don't think it's my bunions. And so I just went along with, I'll just do some stretching and working on them and figure it out. And it turns out, I think that when I became inflamed, Bartonella became a huge issue. And that's when the foot stuff started.
Right. So, and as we had already discussed, you don't know whether or not you are harboring the Bartonella for a long time, and your
You
immune
don't
system
know.
is
You'll
managing
never
it.
know.
Right.
There's no way to know.
But there's no way to specifically know, right? And there are a lot of different ways we can come in contact with Bartonella. And in most cases, our body is going to manage it until it can't manage it. And once your immune system is compromised, now the Bartonella is taken off. And now, did you have any other symptoms? Do you have any of the traditional, the cat scratch, any of the, like, almost looks like scarring on the sides of your body or on your back or anything like that?
No.
So,
I was itchy, like I would have like random nerve pains. I was itchy. I was I had fevers, like just random fevers, whether that's I don't know, you don't know.
So let's say with the Bart for another couple of questions. So one of the other things we see with Bart, and again, very very common that people have burning in their feet, and I'm often
Lots.
frustrated when folks tell us that they've gone to a podiatrist, they've talked about burning in their feet, they've talked about having those symptoms, and the podiatrist is so poorly trained that they don't automatically think of Bartonella. I mean, it's just weird to me that a medical professional would be pointing to bunions, which would be an orthopedic issue, rather than knowing that these neurological pains are likely to be bacterial and very likely to be Bartonella.
Yeah, they did not call it at all.
Yeah. So the other thing that we often see with folks who have Bartonella is aggression. Did you see any aggression? Were you angry? Were you lashing
Oh,
out? Anything like that?
well, I might have been a little pissy to my husband. I mean, I would just put it as I didn't feel good.
Yeah, well, again, not feeling well could cause you to be pissy with your husband,
Yeah.
but generally, again, what we see with Bartonella is, like rage. We see aggression. We see, one of the things that Matt and I had learned during the course of doing, our more than 600 podcasts is in many cases people thought their Lyme rage was really Bart rage, right? And we see a lot. We see this foot burning very commonly, but we also see these mental health symptoms in many cases presenting as rage, not because you're tired and feeling badly, which is another part of this journey where your lack of energy causes you to be easily triggered and to be cranky and to
But here's what I would say about that. It's hard for me because it didn't become an issue till it was an issue, and then I also kicked it really quick. So I didn't struggle with, like, my feet started hurting in October and I was healed in January. So I think more of those symptoms would have happened the longer it would have stayed around. You know what I
for
mean?
sure.
And so
Yeah.
I think that I probably got lucky because I was able to figure it out so quick and was able to, I mean, in my mind, 3 months doesn't seem quick because I got it. I started feeling in October and found out at the end of December and then healed by February.
Okay.
That
So
that seems in a lot of people's journey of this, that's very quick. In my mind, it's not quick, but it is. So I think that the symptoms would have gotten way worse had I not figured it out so fast.
for sure, for sure, and generally we see Lyme disease progressing from a physical disease to an emotional disease to a spiritual disease, and the longer you are sick and the longer your immune system is compromised, not just your physical immune system, your emotional and spiritual immune
Yeah,
system, the longer the journey, the more challenging it is, right?
absolutely.
And if we can catch this at the acute phase, or we can catch it slightly after it's becoming a physically chronic disease, well, of course, the journey is going to be shorter. And you also had a very good platform. I mean, you had years of a solid fitness regimen and years of a solid dietary regimen and years of testing. So you were aware of your body and you were very much in tune with your onboard
Very
diagnostic
into it.
system.
And I'm also I love to study. I love to research. So as soon as something was off, it's like rabbit hole is where I go. And so I just studied. Like when they told me there's nothing, I was like, oh, that's not true. Watch us. And so my mind went to Like I would spend hours, at least 8 hours a day researching and researching and
Oh,
researching.
but Aaron, I mean, I want to give you a little more credit than that, right? Because one of the things that we teach at Think Boot Camp is the importance of being in touch with how you feel
Absolutely.
and not self-gaslighting, right? I mean, I think, by the way, we self-gaslight more often than we are gaslit by other people, and we're gaslit by doctors, for example. And it sounds like not only were you intuitive, but you were listening to your body, right? And you know, in many cases,
I always listen. I'm very in tune with every little thing, but my body is like my life. It's my job. It's always been my world. Like, so if anything hurts or anything's off, I've always been like, let's figure out what's that about. And then I'd research. And so I don't just say, oh, this hurts or this is uncomfortable. Like I didn't just say, oh, when they told me my feet hurt, and I was like, it's not. And I was like, it's not bunions. I was like, I'm not dumb. There's something else
no,
going on.
no, but Aaron, it's not so much about being smart or dumb because you know we live in a society where we're told to ignore our body signals. I'll give you an
Well, we
example.
live in a society to believe doctors, everything
Well,
we're told by
that's true, but
doctors.
let me make another suggestion too. So one of the things that I've shared with folks in our podcast in the past is I read The Abs Diet by David Zinczenko, and one of the things that Zinczenko had suggested is one of the first steps you want to take is you want to first of all recognize the difference between the American portion and the European portion, and we want to as soon as we're full, we want to stop eating. And what he suggested that we should be doing when we're going out to a restaurant is watch how other people are eating with respond to us when we don't finish our meal. Watch how the diet, how the server will react to you when you stop eating. Watch how there are so many social pressures to finish eating, even though your body is full, right? And that's because we're just constantly socialized not to listen to our body, not to respond to our body, but to finish our meal and not be rude and you know and not take something home, right? So we have all these social pressures that cause us, for example, not to listen to our satiation signals and to continue to eat, right? And we have those signals, we have all kinds of social pressures just like that, which I think in many cases cause us to become sick when we could have had some opportunity to intervene. But someone like you who is not only very fit, but very much in tune to listening to her body signals. It allowed you to take action quickly, and you started going down your rabbit hole of research. But it was because you were listening to your body, and because you were not letting anything, including your doctor, interfere with what the onboard diagnostic system was telling you.
Correct. I would agree with that.
Okay, so now let's talk about any other symptoms, right? I mean, are there any other symptoms other than the
Oh,
alpha-gal symptoms
extreme fatigue.
fatigue?
Extreme. Like a tired. I mean, I train hard, but I was a tired like I've never been. I like before I was to the point that I couldn't walk anymore. I was walking my dogs, and I told my husband, I said, "Man, I literally can't make it down this road. I'm so tired." And he's like, "What's going on?" I said, "I don't know. I just think I guess maybe it's these swellings happening. It's just taking all my energy. I've never felt so tired in my life, like lethargic, literally where I could sleep and lay down all day."
So one of the most triggering things that we hear people talk about in the Lyme community is when somebody tries to compare a person who does not have Lyme disease tries to compare their tiredness to the fatigue that people in the Lyme community are
It's
suffering.
very different.
And that's what I want to explore with you. I mean, as somebody who has been, again, an uber fit person who is always rigorously training and often tired as a result of the high level of training that you would engage in, distinguish that level, that type of tiredness from the extreme fatigue that you are feeling from the Lyme disease.
So it's a very different tired. Like obviously when you train hard, maybe you do like a 3, 5 hour ride, whatever you do, you just kind of want to chill, relax, maybe take a quick little nap. No, like with Lyme, Bartonella, I don't know which one it was that made me so tired. Like I can't pinpoint what it was that made me
All of
tired.
the above.
Right. I was, I would, my dog, I would wake up in the morning. I would still do, I had taken out all intensity in my training. So I had to talk to my coach and I was like, hey, let's just take out, I couldn't run anymore. Obviously my feet were too bad. Um, and I wasn't swimming because my face was swelling so much and the goggles were bothering it because it was so puffy. And so I was just cycling, and I was doing weights too, but very zone two, nothing intense. But I would still do an hour to an hour and a half. But I get off, and I mean, I should never be tired from that. And I wasn't really even tired from that. I was just tired. It didn't matter what I did. I was just tired. And I would go for a little walk with the dogs, and I'd be like, I just have to lay down. And that's very, 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 very opposite of me. Like, I'm not that person. And even with all the hard training, that's still not my personality. And
So let's get. I want to sort of like build this out for folks who are, we have a whole spectrum of people listening to this podcast. We have some people who are new to the Lyme community. We have some people who have been dealing with this combination of germs for many years, and we also have people who are caretakers who are trying to learn about how they can be sympathetic and helpful to the family members who they're trying to care for. So let's build this out a little bit more. So. Um, again, the way I look at it is just based on the description, thankfully never having to have this myself, is I think there's a difference between sort of like being muscularly fatigued and having muscle fatigue from being tired, and then sort of being exhausted at your core, where like almost every cell is
it,
fatigued.
yeah, it wasn't muscular tired. That's not the fatigue I felt. It wasn't like my muscles hurt and they just need to rest. It wasn't that way. It was just like I just have to lay down. I'm lethargic. It's like a lethargic feeling, not a man, that was a hard session. I need to rest for a little bit. It's a totally different exhaustion. And my husband's like, I've never seen you lay around so much in my life. Because I have a swing outside, and it was winter time, and I can drop my screens on my patio and turn the fireplace on outside. And I literally laid there all day because I was so tired. I'd just listen to books and podcasts and study and study and study and just lay there.
So you shared with us before you had gotten sick what your fitness regimen was. You shared with us what your rest schedule was at the time. You shared with us what your dietary standards were. Talk to us about supplements. What kind of supplements were you using before you had gotten sick?
I mean, of course, I was using peptides, but everyone thinks of peptides. They only think of the weight loss ones. There's so many amazing peptides. So many amazing peptides. So I was on peptides. I was doing things like GHK. I've had 5 ACL tears, so I do things like BPC and TB 500, glutathione, MOTS-C. I don't know if you're into any of those, but so I was doing those. And then when I was trying to wean everything, I trying to figure out AG1. I do AG1. I also do a fiber supplement. But it's called BioMe, and you know, zinc, selenium, like kind of the normal stuff, nothing, magnesium, nothing fancy. And when I got sick, trying to figure out what was causing the flare ups, I cut everything out. So I didn't use anything, nothing until once I got my diagnosis. I still cut all the supplements out, added magnesium back in, changed my peptide stack to a recovery stack. And I think that was a huge part of healing. Oh, I credit a lot to it. There's a lot of things I credit, and I think that was a big part of my healing journey too. So I went back on those, magnesium pretty quickly, and then just slowly reintroduced the AG1 and stuff. But yeah.
All right. So now talk to us about your mental health and your mindset and what kind of personal development work you were doing in addition to your fitness regimen, your supplements, and your dietary regimen.
So I wasn't like on this personal journey. It didn't happen on purpose, but I would say it's the sickest I'd ever been, but the happiest I'd ever been. My body just went to like, I guess, I don't know if it's because my body was so lethargic and I was just so tired. I would just lay there and I was just like, I'm so happy and so content. Did I feel good? Not really. I mean, I had fevers like on and off kind of every day, like here and there. And then I do a little bit of zone two training in the morning, like an hour and a half. And that's easy. Like I would be on Instagram live, so not hard training. And then I would just chill. And it was my day was about recovery, from hyperbaric chamber to sauna to detox bath to whatever it is that I have on the schedule that day. But and then study. That's it. I just
Okay.
became, I just found an internal peace. It's like when you're going through your life, you're like, "Ooh, let's go to dinner," and that's exciting, or let's do this, and you just have all these external things that bring you joy. And something changed when I got sick, and everything became internal. Like it was the happiest I'd ever been in my own skin, and I looked like shit. I mean, I felt like shit, but I was the happiest I'd ever been.
Okay, we're going to explore that. So let me take you back to before you were sick, because I do want to explore that piece with you as well. And Matt's going to want to take you through the diagnostic piece before we start to get to some of the. But what were your spiritual practices, if any, before you got sick?
Not really any.
Okay, so
I mean, I did like a 30-minute stretch routine every night, which would be like my kind of meditation time that I did every night. I always walk the dog, stretch, sauna, shower, bed. And that's kind of my nightly routine that I've done for a long time. And so kind of my stretching, my dogs lay with me. My dogs are very powerful in my life. I feel like I get so much joy from them. And so they would just lay with me, and stretching was like my meditation.
okay. So let's now focus, because Matt's going to come and join us. Let's focus on your diagnosis, because you began to share with us that that you finally were diagnosed around Christmas time of 2025 with the alpha gal. And now, how did the rest of the diagnosis come? Because you did tease a little bit about muscle testing, but let's build that out so Matt can help our folks understand how you finally were diagnosed with alpha gal, Bartonella, and what is generally known as Lyme disease, not by the way,
Borrelia.
camp definition, but Borrelia.
Correct. So like that's why I never say Borrelia. People are like, what is that? Because most people don't know what I'm talking about. And even Bartonella, people don't know Bartonella either. But okay, so this is what happened. I found on a podcast that I should do 12 rounds of hyperbaric chamber. I listened to this guy. He said he healed. I wish I could find that podcast again. I don't know who it was. He said he healed his alpha gal doing hyperbaric chamber. He did 12 days in a row. I said, okay, I'm going to start there. Also, at the same time, I had been sent, hey, look at SAT, which is SAT, it's acupuncture in your ears. So at the same time, I had been sent, do this. And so before I even got diagnosed, once he told me he thought it was, we'd taken the blood, I didn't have the diagnosis, I went ahead and made my appointment for the acupuncture, because there's a guy here named Dr. Joe, and a lot of people are flying into him for Lyme, Bartonella, alpha gal. He's like a specialist, and he's healing tons and tons of people. And so I got lucky that he happens to be right outside Nashville. And so I had already made an appointment with him. And so so I went in to book my package for the hyperbaric chamber. I'm talking to the lady there, and they have a lady that's into the Chinese medicine, muscle testing, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, she's like, wait, you have alpha gal. Do you think you have Lyme or Bartonella? I was like, no, I don't know. I just think it's all alpha gal. I don't know. And she's like, you need to test for that stuff. Don't just sit on that. You need to figure it out. And I was like, okay. And she said, she's like, this is the worst I've seen. She's like, your testing is so bad. So like my inflammation was through the roof. My liver wasn't detoxing. She would look at me and say, she's in shape. She looks great, right? With the exception of my face being swollen. But she's like, your liver's not detoxing. Your immune system shut down. You have Bartonella. You have Lyme, Borrelia, whatever you want to call it. And yeah. And so that's how I found out. And then I told you I had that appointment to get the SAT, which is another Chinese medicine doctor. And so I went in. So at this point, I was probably day 3-ish on my hyperbaric chamber. My husband and he went with me every day, and we went together to the hyperbaric chamber. And I went to a 2.0 one, which is you go a little deeper, which means it's more effective. So I did that. It took a little bit longer than 12 days because we had a big ice storm here in Nashville. So everything shut down. So I was trying to do them all consecutively, because that's what I heard was supposed to be the best. But it probably took me 15 to 16 days to get those in. But day 2 or 3 of the hyperbaric chamber, I went and saw Dr. Joe, and I was just going to get the SAT put in my ear. And he's like, well, we need a test for everything while you're down here too. And so he tested. He's like, you do have Borrelia, Bartonella, alpha gal. And then he found where to put because they're really particular about where they put them for. I don't know. Are you guys familiar with SAT at all?
Yes.
Yeah. They're very particular about where they put them. And so he said, well, yours is going to take at least 2 rounds of this, possibly 3 to heal the alpha gal. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I can do that. At the same time, I changed. Obviously, I was carnivore, so I had to change my nutrition. But what I was really hyper focused on was how do I fix my terrain of my body that had just gone to complete crap? Because at this point, I've just destroyed everything. Because then the first lady told me I have mold, I have parasites, and I was like, how did all this happen? And it's just basically because my terrain was off, right? If you have a good solid terrain, then everything can heal. If you don't, then everything becomes an issue. So I said, okay, I'm going to eat 3 foods, and everything had to be cooked fresh. I couldn't have any leftovers, no histamine, no nothing. So I had chicken thighs with skin on. I had coconut oil eggs, not another bite of food. That I ate 2 meals a day, and that is all I had: water, black coffee, and that's it. No, I put coconut oil in my coffee
So,
and
Erin,
salt.
I want to jump in here and I need to apologize on behalf of Rich for not emphasizing how freaking cool you are because he did not do a good job to gas you up in the way that you deserve. I mean, you are a badass, right? So, just for my part of this, I have to tell everybody, you are an elite fitness trainer. You've trained Carrie Underwood. You made history when you were appointed to the first lead of a female platoon attached to the infantry in a war zone in Iraq. I mean, as you said offline, you've like lived multiple lives in one short life. I mean, so you are the epitome of health and wellness, but yet tick-borne illness still took you down. But you fought
It
back,
did.
you won, and here you are on the other side of it now, helping other people to not have to suffer like you did. So, I mean, it's such a cool, cool journey. Now, what I like
It
to
is a
do,
journey that I never thought I'd be on, but my husband say, "Do you ask why me?" I said, "No, no." I said, "There's a plan for this. This happened to me for a reason. I honestly believe this happened to me, so then I had to learn about it. And then it happened to me to be a voice for it because I have a platform that I can teach people, and I can teach people. Number one thing is you can't fear a disease. If you fear a disease, you know what that does? It destroys everything. You can't heal in fear.
amen.
You
Yeah,
can't heal in fear. You can't heal in stress. You can't heal in you can't become a victim to your disease. If you're a victim to your disease and you play that victim role, then you're not setting your body up to heal. And so my answer was this happened to me to teach people to not fear this. I say, everyone's like, oh my God, alpha guy. I said, and I message so many people, don't fear it. If it happens to you, you can heal. Just know you can heal. You're fine. Don't fear it. And that's what I think God put this in me to be able to spread the word that it is okay. You will be okay. And here's the things you can do, catch it quickly, and here's what you can do. And all the things, so you find out you have alpha gal, test for everything else, and then heal it all right away. Don't sit on it.
yeah, yeah. And by the way, you also wrote several books. One of them that I'm going to read, which is the Power Plate Diet, which is where you discover the ultimate anti-inflammatory meals to fat-proof your body and restore your health, which is so cool because
It is
Lyme and
cool,
all
but
tick-borne
I've,
illness,
I've really
it's
changed my philosophy. Gosh, that was in 2000. So I'm very different now because now I'm carnivore. So I stay a very carnivore nutrition as opposed to those books. I tell people, I said, don't buy those books. I don't follow those anymore.
so we have to
Well,
wait for the next book.
No, next book is going to be all about this. I swore I would never write another book in my whole life. And when this happened to me, actually not when it happened to me, when I healed, something told me this is what it was supposed to this is what I was supposed to do. And I told my husband I'm writing another book. He said, "No, you're not." I was like, "I really am." Now
oh,
I don't
so
write. I have a ghostwriter. I don't write
So,
anything.
Erin, now that Matt has finished sucking up to you and tripping all over your older books that you're not advocating for, I'd like to focus on another thing with you, and that is post-traumatic growth. And one of the challenges Matt and I saw recently at a talk we had given for the Vital Plan, and is it still called Restore 180
It is.
program,
Yep.
Matt? We had given a presentation. One of the things that I had shared with the group was that every person we've interviewed, except for one, and there've been over 1,000 people we've interviewed and over 600 interviews that we've already published, said just what you said, which is I believe God. I don't. I don't believe gave it to you, but ordained that you would have this,
Right.
that it was so that you would learn what you were supposed to learn about yourself and about the people you're supposed to serve, and that you wouldn't give it back even if you could. Now,
No.
when I said that, the comments came in attacking me for saying that, right? And one of the things that Matt said to me is, Rich, don't say that anymore because it's triggering. So I'm glad we're here so you can help me.
Wait. People find that triggering?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Ooh,
Yeah.
I trigger a
heavily.
lot of people then because I honestly believe that like it happened to me. I wouldn't take back any of my experiences. I would never take it back because I learned more through that time than I mean, it's just such a different experience. I've learned. I obviously each phase of my life, I learned so much. It's experience I didn't ever want to have. I will say that, but I had it. I don't take it back. But what I've learned, I'm going to be able to help so many people, I think. And that's
Yep.
why I think it's okay. It's a phase of life. Was it uncomfortable? Absolutely. Was I scared? No. Scared because the doctor, okay, I don't know if I'm going to, but the doctors told me this is at least a year. Lyme and Bartonella, there you got at least a year. There's no way to heal it quicker. And I said, I call it 6 months. And then it was 7.5 weeks.
Okay,
He
so
said,
and some of
never.
this can some of your experiences are atypical for a lot of different reasons, and I think some of it has to do with how early you were diagnosed, and I think it's because the alpha gal triggered the rest of what was going on. You had baseline testing that you were doing. You were in touch with your intuition. Some of it is also another piece I want to talk to you about is your age at the time that you had done this, right? So when Matt was sucking up to you, he was saying,
48.
"Hey." Erin, you've lived like 12 lives, right? And I think that is true. You are a very accomplished person, but it also suggests that you had to be chronologically around long enough to live all those lives, right? And when we're a little bit older and we're more in tune with our bodies and we're more in tune with and having the confidence that one would have if they've accomplished as much as Erin has accomplished, right? That puts you in a position where you were able to take action very quickly and you were able, you had resources, you had experiences, you had maturation, you were able to take action very, very quickly. Unfortunately, when people are younger and when they're living in a social structure that encourages them not to listen to their bodies and they don't have
Well, you got to
resources.
think a lot of people younger that are getting it, they're drinking, they're partying. You're not going to be able to separate the symptoms at that point when
No,
you're
right.
doing
And
things
and
like that.
and you did suggest that this is a terrain disease, and it is, right? I mean, you're going to
So
become
you would
ill.
agree with that. That's good to hear because
Absolutely, no.
everything I've read and everything I've said, and it's not even really, I think I've just figured out, it's like, look, until I heal the basics, there's no outside source I can bring in to heal. There's nothing can heal until I figure out the basics, fix the
Yeah.
basics. I got to fix my metabolic health. That was really good. That became really bad, like carnivore was great until it was terrible for me because I couldn't have red meat. And so then my metabolic health was so bad. Without your metabolic health, I mean, you pretty much you can't heal.
I want to say with this important point for Matt to learn from you, and that is the post-traumatic growth piece, right? Because one of the things that I argue is that we need to heal from the top down. What I mean from that is we have to heal spiritually, we have to heal emotionally, and then we can heal physically, right? And the spiritual piece of this is putting this experience in context and understanding that as after we get through the grief cycle of denial and then anger and then sadness and then bargaining and then acceptance is the only way we get out of the grief cycle is now, as Tony Robbins teaches, creating something new and understanding that this is contextual and understanding that this has been ordained so that we can grow. And once we get there, then we can go through the next step of healing emotionally, and then finally get to the next step of healing physically. So, can you share with Matt and other people who have been on this journey how important it was for you to now make sure that you are dealing with the spiritual elements of this and understanding that you are now going to be a new creation at the end of this process and that this is ordained for your growth, which then allows you to go through the rest of the healing process.
I think mindset's everything. Everything is, how are you doing mentally? That's what I was saying. I became the happiest I'd ever been at the sickest I'd ever been. And I
But Erin,
think,
I'm going to pause you there because see, this I'd like to because that is a triggering statement for 99% of our community, right? So I
oh, sorry
believe
about that.
no, it's okay, right? It's no
No.
need to apologize because Rich. So context, Rich would trigger me so much when we started this 6 years ago, but because he kept pushing me, I am the healthiest I've been because of that push. And despite how I reacted to it, I had to improve my mental health and my mindset to then be able to improve my physical health, right? Because that was a precursor. So I'm all with the two of you on this. But I think what's important is you have the personality and the brain and the knowledge to help so many people. But how do you bridge the reality of what you're saying with people getting triggered because they have a fear state in their mind to help them understand that they need to push forward through that and adopt what you're saying? And that I think is a hard piece, right? So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to kind of put that on
So
your radar as you talk through
I
it.
hear you on that. And I do think it is a hard piece. And actually I deal with a lot of, not deal with, I answer a lot of this in social media too. A lot of people are like, well, how do you not get depressed? How do you, and then that's a big one. And there's a lady that I talk with every day, almost every day on social media. She's the one that really encouraged me to write a book, actually. She's like, will you please just put this in book? She's like, every day you help me get through. She's dealing with Lyme, chronic Lyme. And I was like, look, she's like, well, I just keep pushing to do this. I said, that's not the answer. The answer isn't pushing at this point. This is when you pull back and you let your body heal. It's not to push for. Your body's talking to you. It's telling you, your feet are telling you they hurt. It's okay. I am usually like, you push through, you push through, push through. I think there's points in life where you have to just pull back and know it's okay to not be perfectly okay. And it's okay to realize that this is not the time to go. This is the time that you truly find. And I know a lot of people say, well, I feel so bad. How do you find peace? And I said to myself, I said, I just kept telling my husband every day I wake up, I said, man, that's the happiest I've ever been. He's like, what is wrong with you? I was like, I feel like I'm living the happiest I've ever been right now. And he's like, how is that? I said, I don't know. There's
Well, let's
some,
explore that, Erin.
but I
Let's not.
think, but I have to say, when the day it all happened and I got diagnosed, right? I got the blood work a week and a half before. It took longer than normal because it was over the Christmas holiday. So I got the first doctor's appointment when he said, hey, I think you have this. So I'd already cut out red meat through Christmas. Still had another flare up because I was so bad with alpha gal that even if I cooked the ribeyes for my husband, just the fumes got me full flare
Wow.
up. So I was in really bad shape with it. But even like that point, so when I first got the word, I think you have alpha gal, I was like, what? What? I was so like in shock, right? You get that, oh shit, what? That's my whole life. I'm carnivore. I eat red meat. Like I try to keep my inflammation low and I know how to train for my Ironmans. And it was just like, holy cow. And then, so I didn't have the official. I just kept saying, it's probably wrong. He's probably wrong. Probably wrong. He was not wrong. And I had I sat down and talked to my son, who is also my Ironman coach. And I was like, man, and my eyes just started watering. And I was like, this is like reality now. Holy cow, this is forever. Because that's what he told me. He's like, it just doesn't heal and it might go away one day, but there's nothing you could do. And then when I got the call and he's like, yes, you did test positive. And then the next day is when I went to the hyperbaric and that's when I tested for Lyme Barton and that test positive. I came home and just cried. It's not like everything was like, oh, happy, happy, go lucky. It wasn't like that. Like I had that was one day that I had a complete breakdown and it was about an hour long. And then I would say the next day I was good. And then that afternoon I was eating and then all of a sudden I got really sad. And then I just sat on my couch and I cried for probably an hour and watched TV. I'm not a TV watcher, so it's very odd for me. Like I don't really ever watch any TV. And then that was it. That was the end of it. So those are my two like, oh, you get a reality check. And it's like, because we're really taught to fear these things. And that's when my mind said, wait, I'm fearing something that I know our bodies are designed to heal.
Yeah.
There's no way that there's something out there that you can't heal from if I don't fix the basics. And I was like, I've got this. And so that was kind of my aha moment. And I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And then I also said, I'm not sick. I feel like if we sit here and repeat to ourselves, we're sick, we're sick, we're sick, what does your mind do? You just destroy yourself, because in your mind you just are gonna, like, it's like, oh, I have a headache, I have a headache. You know what? That headache's just
Yep.
gonna get worse. It's gonna get worse. You just hyper focus on that one thing. I said, I don't have Lyme disease. I'm not Lyme disease. I'm Erin, who happens to be dealing with this thing, but Lyme disease is not my identity, and neither is alpha gal. It's not my identity. It is something I'm working through right now, but I didn't make it my identity. And I said, I'm gonna find peace with this, and I'm also going to figure out how to recover from it, because it was like maybe the second I was at the gym, the second podcast I listened to on it on alpha gal. So I was going down the alpha gal rabbit hole, and at first that was the first one I started with, and it said we expect in the next 4 years most every American to have this. I said, you know what? I'm going to figure this out, and I'm going to help all these people watch this. And that's kind of, at that point I had a driven mindset, but still I was pretty sick. And so that was
So,
my journey.
so Erin, well, so we have a lot to unpack here
Yeah.
A
because there
lot.
are a lot of really important lessons here. So let's talk about the I want to bookmark, because this is a really important conversation about you being the happiest you were ever when you were in the midst of the disease. Let's bookmark that, because I don't want that thread to not get closed. But I have some earlier questions before we get to that. And you said that you sat down when you interacted with your son, and you and he had the conversation about the changes that you were going to have to go through and the impact that was going to have on you, and obviously on your son as your coach. That made you sad. You ultimately you had a session where you were crying after that moment. Then the next day you were again crying, and you were watching TV, something you don't do. Probably watching some goofy reality
I
TV.
actually probably wasn't even watching TV. I was probably just scrolling, sitting there thinking, what has just happened? Because I felt like my life had been flipped upside down in a matter of 2 days, like all this information came to me. I was like, I'm I'm sick. Am I really sick? Obviously, I felt bad. And so I knew that. But in my mind, I still wasn't sick, like, yeah, I just happened to feel bad.
No, but Aaron, but there are two really important pieces there, right? And the first piece is you were able to grieve very quickly. That window of time where you were sad and you were crying and you were going through that process, that was grieving. You were grieving, right? And what happened was you were able to grieve quickly, right? And we've seen that on this podcast where there are people, for example, we interviewed this brilliant actress who had to learn how to deal with disappointment on a regular basis, because she'd read for a part and wouldn't get it, and have to read for another part and wouldn't get it, and then read for a part and would get it. And what she had to learn how to do is she had to learn how to grieve quickly so she could move on to her next part. Well,
Wait, I
as
wonder if that's I actually, like, I've been, like, my dad died at my going away party when I was leaving for Iraq. The
wow.
second time he died during my going away party. I got 10 days of emergency leave, and then I went. And then I went over there, and I grieved for those couple days. Never again. And he was my best friend. Like, and I
Aaron,
feel like that's kind of my personality. Is I don't dwell on things. I just move forward. I don't dwell, and so I'm not a grieving. Like, I will grieve, but it'll be short, quick, and done.
So, and that's an important part of this journey, which is why we wanted to highlight for you, because what we've seen is the people who develop the capacity to process trauma quickly, then can move on to make the decision, meaning cut off all other outcomes other than getting better. But people who struggle with the grief cycle, which can become a carousel and ultimately a flywheel, those people are not in a place where they can emotionally heal until they can work through that trauma. So that's why I'm highlighting that with you, that it is important for us to understand that processing trauma is an important part of our spiritual and emotional being. And the more quickly we can identify the need to get help in that area, either because you're resilient the way you are, maybe genetically or because of your experiences, or you've learned how to grieve quickly the way, for example, some of our past guests who were in the acting community were able to do that. That allowed them to take the next step. So that's what I want to explore with you first, that ability to process trauma quickly so you can get to the next step of in the healing process.
Right, right. So I mean, I guess I mean, obviously my career of training, I've been through a ton of no's in my life. I guess in kind of in the actress world, but in different ways, you know. And I just am not one. I don't dwell on things. Like I will let it happen. I will be sad, and then I will move past. Like
Okay.
that's just my mojo, and I don't know. I don't know if the Marine Corps mindset helps with that. I don't know, but
I think there are a lot of different pieces of this, and I think some of it had to do with chronological maturation. Some of it had to do with a lot of these experiences. Some of it has to do with the way God made you, and the reason you were able to have so much success and live so many lives is the way Brown Noser Matt described you is because you were able to deal with disappointments and you were able to be resilient. You were able to overcome that, and that's one of the gifts that you had that allowed you to have a shorter journey, right? But the reason we're exploring this here on the podcast today is that has to be a part of the prehabilitation. That has to be a part of the healing journey. And even if they don't have the same tools you had coming into this experience, they do have to go through the process of understanding what the grief cycle is, understanding that you have to process trauma, and understanding that getting through that and ultimately coming to a place where you understand you're going to be something new, that you don't hold on to the old person, but becoming something new is what's going to allow the post-traumatic growth that will allow you to now let's get to the next piece, Erin, because this is the piece that you've teased several times that we haven't explored now that I want to explore with, which is you said, I'd never been happier, despite again all the accomplishments you had in your life. I had never been happier than when I was in that moment. So let's talk about that. Let's talk
so
about how do you define happy? Please define happy for me
okay, it
first.
was a piece that I've never felt before. I wasn't searching for anything external to bring me joy. It was finding internal peace, peace with myself. My favorite thing was just to relax on the swing, which anybody around be like, wait, that's what you would say you really love? Because I'm a go, 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 go person. And just being with me. I didn't need to talk to anybody. I didn't need to socialize. I actually didn't socialize at all. At all. It was just me and my dogs. I mean, my husband was here, but outside, I stay outside 24/7. No matter how cold, like I'm outside. And so I just found this, like, I was just so happy. I don't even know it. And I really feel like it is finding that internal peace of being happy with yourself and not looking for external things to please you and bring you joy. There's no person to fulfill that. There's no, maybe a dog, but there's no outside thing that can teach you to be happy with who you are.
Okay, but now, so we often talk about life as a journey and Lyme disease is a journey, which they are, right? And Lyme disease is a part of your journey, which will speed up the process of ultimately discovering your purpose. Because what does it mean to be on a journey? What it means to be on a journey is you're going through a process of discovering who you are and who you're supposed to serve, preparing yourself so that you can serve the people that you can serve and skill up so that you can serve the people that you can serve, and then ultimately deploying yourself to serve the people God created you to serve, right? And it isn't until we get to that point that we can be happy. We're always going to be restless while we're on the discovery phase. We're always going to be restless while we're on the preparation phase. And it's not until we get to the place where we're deploying ourselves or about to deploy ourselves to serve other people where we're going to have that happiness, right? And again, this is sort of bringing together all the conversations that we've been having in the past where this is triggering for people to hear. And by the way, I think triggering is good because it's a signal and you have to listen to the signal and your body's telling you this is something you need to pay attention to. So I don't want you to apologize for triggering people. I don't apologize. I want to trigger people because I want to be the person that's pointing in the direction where they need to be to heal, right? So you were at peace, Erin. I would argue, I'd like to get your perspective on my interpretation, but I think you were at peace because you finally were at the place where you knew you were going to be deployed to do what you were going to do, that you were about to serve the people you were supposed to serve, and you were going to be able to serve them in a way that you would not have been able to serve them had you not gone through this journey.
I would say when I first found that internal peace, I had not gotten to that point yet. At no point did I think I was going to teach this or write a book. I mean, at no point did I think that this would be something big I would talk about until I started. I still did a lot of just soul searching. I feel like I just did a lot of soul searching, like it's like, wait, you search for all these big accomplishments. You hit this milestone, or you do, like, I've done a lot of big things in my life. None of them bring me the joy that I have right now. Like, literally, there's no external. I think when I found that internal peace, and I was just like, I'm so comfortable in my own skin. There's nothing anybody can say about me, because I get a lot of hate on social media. I mean, let's just get real. I get a lot. And there is
Who can
nothing
hate
anybody,
you?
huh?
Who can hate you?
Oh, it's nonstop. You name it, I get hate on it. It's pretty funny. But I was like, wait, I truly am so happy with who I am. And then as I started learning, I was like, wait, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm meant to do. So I would say I found the peace before I figured out what I was meant to do.
Good. I mean, look, I believe so. Our spirit is telling us that we're where we're supposed to be, and now the revelation comes to us, and the gifts come to us because we're prepared for it, and now we can start to serve the way we're supposed to serve. That's where I think you were, and that's where I think that's why I believe you had that peace. But let me talk to you about needs, right? Because we're never going to be happy unless our needs are being met, right? And the way Tony Robbins describes needs, he says he argues that there are six basic human needs. It's certainty, variety, significance, love, growth, and contribution. And he argues that you're never happy until you are growing to contribute. That's where happiness is, and I believe that's the spiritual piece of it, right? And one of the things that I thought was really interesting about the way he teaches this is he said one of the things that causes us to struggle at times is that we're constantly chasing after goals, right? And then
What's
we
next? What's next? What's next? You hit
right
this one, next thing. That was me.
and then what happens, unfortunately, is we accomplish the goal, and then we're not happy for, we get there, but then we're not happy, right? And then we chase the next goal, right? And we chase the next goal, and we get there, and we're happy for a very short period of time, and then we chase the next goal. And he says, and Tony Robbins argues that it's because when we're chasing goals, what we're doing is we're seeking significance, right? And the reason it doesn't make us happy for any period of time is because we're mixing up significance with contribution. And it's contribution and serving other people that will cause us to be happy. It's not the chasing and the accomplishing of the goals, right? And I would argue that what you've just demonstrated in the way that you shared your journey is that you were chasing goal after goal after goal, and you're accomplishing goal after goal after goal. And as Matt, and I've been teasing him during this podcast, but so eloquently argued that you've lived 12 lifetimes in a very short period of time because you're such a goal-driven and goal-accomplishing person, but you weren't happy because you weren't to the place where you were
You
sig-
know what's funny is I
you were-
didn't. I mean, I would have thought of myself as happy because I mean, I really felt like I wasn't an unhappy person. It wasn't like I
no,
was unhappy at all. Actually, I felt like I lived a great life, right?
for sure.
But when I got sick, something changed internally. It was a different kind. It was a different kind of peace that I don't even know how to
Aaron, it's because
describe it.
you stopped chasing significance, and you are now at peace with the place you are going to be so that you contribute and help other people. That's the difference. You were mixing up, like all of us, significance and the goals that come along with significance versus contribution, which is where we're serving other people. That's where the peace came, and that's where the happiness came. And that's why you're the
It's
happiest thing
awesome.
you
It's the
ever
best
was.
feeling. It really is.
And now, Erin, that's when healing starts, right? Healing starts when we're in the right place spiritually, where we understand who we are, we understand who we're supposed to be serving, and we've gotten to that new place, right? Because one of the things that Matt and I have seen on many occasions is we'll interview people on this podcast, people who are in the midst of healing, and they keep talking about the person they used to be and missing the person they used to be and wanting
Oh,
to
I
be the
know.
person they want to be. And one of the again brilliant young women we interviewed on this podcast, Christina Consalvo, said, "You have to become someone new. You can't be the person you were before because that person got Lyme disease. you need to be a new person, right? So I mean, she was so articulate in the way that she described that, right? But the point is, Erin, once you get to the place where you're supposed to be, once you understand that this is ordained, and once you understand that you have to process this grief, you have to become the new person. You now understand who it is that you are. You understand what gifts you have, and your purpose becomes revealed to you. Now you are healing, and now you're helping other people heal.
Yeah, my purpose is to heal others. Not to heal, sorry, not to heal others. My purpose is to give people hope. I want them to understand that they don't have to fear this. And I say it on Instagram and everyone's like, it's so easy for you. I was like, it's not easy for anybody.
Well, that's the
I didn't
triggering
say it
part,
was
Aaron, right?
easy.
That's the trigger for people. And I as somebody who was there, I get it, but it's critical that we work through it. Otherwise, we're never going to heal. So what you're doing is so important. We're going to trigger people. We have to try to be more direct, or maybe change our message to trigger less people. But in the end, we have to keep doing it because people won't get better unless they receive this message. So I think you're spot on with what you're saying.
Good, good. That's good to hear. Because
Now,
I do probably trigger a lot of people because they always say, well, it's because you have money, or it's because you have this, or because you have that, and blah, blah, blah. I say, no, I fixed my terrain
yep.
and I didn't fear this disease. I had a positive mindset. I didn't sit here and think, why me? Why me? I did not become a victim to a disease. It was part of the journey, but it wasn't my identity.
Yeah. I do want to, because there's some unique components that I don't want to lose sight of from a treatment standpoint that I want to make sure we discuss, right? Because this SAAT treatment for alpha gal is relatively new. And again, we had Christina Kovacs, a good friend of ours, reach out about 6 months ago and tell us, hey, I have alpha gal, I'm struggling, I'm doing this, it's been working really well. You guys got to check it out, and you got to interview more people about it. So we've had some people discuss it, but just to kind of highlight what it is, right? So what it stands for is Solomon Auricular Allergy Treatment, but it's really just a specialized, highly effective acupuncture technique using small needles that go into the ear for a couple of weeks. And it sounds so odd, but because it's a form of acupuncture, what it does is, and I have it up here actually because I wanted to make sure I had the proper information, it calms the immune system. So generally what alpha-gal is, it's an overreactive immune system to the alpha-gal protein spit into your body by the Lone Star tick. And that overreactive immune system causes the rashes. It causes all of the inflammatory responses. It causes, the anaphylaxis and all these wide-ranging symptoms like smelling mammal meat and having a reaction. It's all immune response. So what it does is it reprograms the immune system through the ear's direct connection to the central nervous system, which is key because instead of simply masking symptoms with antihistamines, it targets the underlying neurological and biological pathways that cause the immune system to overreact to these harmless substances, right? So it's a very natural way to hone in on the body's core functionality by resetting the central nervous system based on certain acupuncture points in the body. So it's really cutting edge. So can you share with us how this worked for you and what your experience was like using SAAT with
Yes.
Dr. Joe?
I also, not only because it works so well, I do acupuncture in my feet because I still have the very ending of the Bartonella still going on in my feet. It's pretty much gone. I'd say 90 to 95% gone. And I do weekly acupuncture still in my feet because that works so good. So my experience was I went in, obviously I thought it was kind of quackery. I mean, it sounds a little woohoo, right? At first, I was like, there's no way. Same thing, I thought of muscle testing at first. And then I was like, hey, you guys have made me a firm believer in all this like woohoo-y stuff. And I was like, maybe that's my new, maybe I'd become a Chinese medicine doctor. Just kidding. But no, so I went in and I was like, man, this is the oddest thing ever. And he puts this thing in your ear and he just digs around and he finds the right spot. And it's really important who you go to, who they were trained by. He says there's a lot of people out there not doing it correctly. So when someone says, well, I couldn't heal from it, I said, well, first of all, if you're not fixing your terrain, you can't heal. So I said, so if you're eating a bunch of inflammatory foods, you can't just go do SAT and think it's going to fix it. Like that's not how things work. And so I think that's number one to say. I had to massively change everything. That's when I went to the 3 foods and nothing else. You can't warm food up. Like everything has to be fresh. You cannot have any histamine. Like, so it's super important. It's a very, like, he gave me this diet thing. He said, most everybody looks at it and he says, you're the first person that looked and said, I got this. Most everyone's like, well, I can't do that. I need to have cream in my coffee. And what about, well, sugar in my coffee? And I was like, whatever. You tell me this is what I need, I will do whatever. And so I went on a very strict diet. That's why I said I do skin on chicken thighs, coconut oil, eggs, nothing else. And so then they put these little tiny needles in your ears, a couple, like, I don't remember how many, 3, 4, and then a little Band-Aid over it. And you wear like a shower cap over your ear, but it's an ear shower cap when you shower for 3.5 weeks. So my schedule was to go in at 3.5 weeks, and I was going to get him changed. And then he thought 2 to 3 rounds is how many rounds it'd take. When he took him out, he said it was gone. He retested, gone. Now the reintroduction phase is very slow, like very slow. It's like you eat a pea size, and then you eat double a pea size. It's a very slow reintroduction phase. You'll just go back to being like normal carnivore red meat. So it takes time, but I was slow and steady wins the race, and now I'm back to full on red meat. So he said I was the fastest he's ever healed anyone, the quickest.
Wow.
But I think that it wasn't. Yes, the SAT was a huge part of it. It wasn't the only part. Because at the same time, I did 12 rounds of hyperbaric chamber, which I've also heard someone else say that healed their alpha gal. So I did the two together. Also, I went super strict on my diet. Also did detox bath every other day, sauna every other day, zone 2 training to clear out mold. So I still sweated a lot. I was taking binders. I did go on Doxy for a short period of time, but then I was too worried about my gut health.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I did that, and then after I went off that, he's like, we can't do any herbs or anything while you're on that. And then when I went off that, we went on herbs, and then I was taking things like turmeric, olive leaf extract. Yeah. And
I'm going to
so
pause you there because a couple of questions. So first of all, that was the best explanation we've ever had about this SAAT therapy. So thank you for that, because that is really powerful. But I think you hit it on the head. You have to be committed to other things besides that. You have to have the diet elimination while you're doing it to help the immune system reset. Otherwise, you're going to set yourself back. And I think the reason why you only needed one session is because you were so strict and rigid, whereas most people aren't. You followed it to a
yes,
T, the
he
diet
said he's
regimen that
never
you
seen
needed.
it. Yeah, he
Now,
said also I went on the most amazing stack of peptides. I don't know if you guys are into peptides at
we
all.
are. Yes.
You are. So I
Can we?
had the best recovery stack that I think played a big role, to the point that my Chinese medicine doctor is now looking into them because he's never seen anything like my healing.
Let's pause on the peptides. I have that on my list to get into with you, but I want to do a deeper dive on that. So I want to wrap up the other parts first. So obviously the SAT was great, and then you did that in parallel with HBOT, which is your hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Now,
Yeah, 2.01, which I think is
okay.
important.
So we've heard a lot about HBOT in treatment for Lyme and other co-infections to help the body eliminate and eradicate the microbes, but we haven't heard about its use for alpha-gal. So can you speak to the 2.0 and why that matters, and also how it's being used for alpha-gal, which we haven't really heard of before?
So the 2.0 allows it to go deeper, which means that it's just better, like a better quality one, right? But the thing that so obviously I didn't know I had Lyme and Bartonella. I knew that the alpha gal was what I was waiting on the blood work to come back. So that's when I started listening to podcasts on alpha gal. And that's when I heard a guy say that he went to the hyperbaric chamber and healed his alpha gal in 12 rounds. So this was before I knew I had, or even even possibility of having Lyme and Bartonella. That was not even on my mind. So I had started the hyperbaric chamber before I knew I had those. But I think I found out I had those on day 2 of my hyperbaric chamber 12 days in a row.
Right.
So it was helping. I mean, yes, it helped. I think it helped the alpha gal, but it also was helping the Lyme, the Bartonella, the mold, the
For sure.
parasites, the liver, the inflammation. I mean, you name it, it's helping everything. Now, my ultimate goal was to get to a thing called EBO2,
Yes.
EBO2.
Love it.
Okay, and that was my ultimate goal, but she's like, you're too sick, you can't do that. If you do that, you're going to be Herx, right? Did I say it right?
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, so
Yeah.
Herx stands for Herxheimer reaction. So
Yeah, but I
Herxheimer
can
reaction
never
is
remember that word for some
it,
reason. It just slips my brain.
yeah, because it's a guy's last name, of course, making it harder,
Oh,
right? So
that's
it's a
why.
gentleman's
Okay.
last name, Herxheimer, who then they shortened it to Herx, which basically means your body's in a flare due to inflammation from the die off of the microbe, right? Fancy word.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Yep.
Yeah, but for some reason that word will not stick in my head. So she said, right now we can do the hyperbaric chamber. The first week I couldn't do any sauna or anything like that. And then the second week is when I started bringing the sauna and the detox bath in one day. Then the next day I take binders before both those. And then after I did the 12 rounds of that, and then I got my SAT removed, that's when I found out my alpha gal was gone. So
Wow.
at that
What
point,
binders, Erin, do you mind if I want to jump in? What binders were you using?
Cellcore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know which, because Cellcore has a couple, do you know which types of binders?
I do. I don't have it up here, so I don't remember the exact name. I still take them.
Okay.
I still
Yeah,
take
maybe
them
you can
before I
share it with
sauna.
us after, and we'll drop it in the show notes. So if people,
Yeah.
are listening, we can drop it in the show notes to clarify that if that works for you.
Yeah, I can do that.
Great. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. So then you were going on about beyond that. Yep.
So then I finished the hyperbaric, went to my SAT appointment. At that point, I was going in to get him changed out for round 2. He tested me and he just had the biggest smile. He's like, it's gone. And so we went over the reintroduction phase. He's like, your Lyme has dropped drastically at this point. He's like, you still have it. He's like, you still have a year. I was like, I do not have a year. I said, 6 months, it's going to be gone. He's like, you have a year. Lyme can't be beat that quick. And then the Bartonella had gone down too. But I would go to him because I went to acupuncture every week. So he would just test, because I'm OCD, a little type A. I was like, hey, can we test every week? And so he would test me every week. And then she would test me at protocol, where I'd go for my hyperbaric chamber. So now at this point, I'd finished my rounds of hyperbaric, and then I went to the Hocket machine, which is topical ozone, because I was trying to get my body ready for the EBU 2. So my ultimate goal was to get to EBU 2, but I was trying to get my body healthy enough to where I wouldn't get sick.
So Hocket, Erin, is HOCATT, which is hyperthermic ozone and carbonic acid transdermal therapy, just for everybody listening and for the transcript, which is a multi-technology wellness sauna that combines several modalities: ozone, steam, infrared, and frequency therapies in one 30-minute session. So it's really using all of those healing modalities in one, and it's helping you kind of detox and kill some microbes to get prepped for EBU, which is a more aggressive form, I think is what you're saying, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I did
I'm
a
with you.
couple rounds of that. Also, I do PEMF mat every day, an hour a day. I do red light an hour every day. I'm really big on circadian rhythm. Every morning, opening my lymphatic, I do at least probably 30 minutes out in morning sun, 6:30 out there, no matter how cold it is. And then I do my lymphatic, and then I do my series of movements on my vibration plate. I also breathe an hour of hydrogen every morning. Why I'm red lighting, I have the AXIOM 600 machine. And so I breathe that and I drink hydrogen water all day. So
Rich, who was the gentleman? Sorry to interrupt there. Rich, you remember the gentleman who was all about hydrogen therapy? He sold all the products. I'm just trying to blank on his name, but this is going to pair well together.
Yeah, I'm blanking on it as well, Matt.
Okay.
That was an awesome episode. I apologize to our listeners.
Hydrogen. When you go down that rabbit hole, it's so interesting. So I didn't have the hydrogen machine until right after I got my alpha gal was clear. That's when my hydrogen machine got here. So it was not part of the alpha gal. It was, but the PEMF mat, the red light was, and then I added the sauna, or added the hydrogen. And then, okay, so after I did the Hocket some, I went back, I tested the Lyme. He's like, it's gone down a little bit more, because I was still testing every week and doing the acupuncture in my feet, because I was determined to fix my feet, man. That was painful. I would tear my ACL every day over going through that again on my feet. And then, let's see. Then they said, hey, you're clear to do EBU. So EBU, okay, I can't remember the wording. You guys will have to research. So there's something they give you that they can't give you if you have alpha gal. Even though I've already been healed from alpha gal, they can't do something in the IB if you have alpha gal. And they had to change it out for me because I was still on a very slow reintroduction phase, so I couldn't pump a bunch of that in me. But I don't know the wording of it.
So I don't know either. I'm just going to really quick jump in if you don't mind, Erin, because I wanted just to, on the hydrogen piece, I found the episode, and I apologize to Brad for not remembering, but episode 451 of our podcast is called Overcoming Lyme Disease with Exercise and Oxygen Therapy, featuring Brad Pritzel. And he's the one he's founder of 1000 Roads, and he talks a lot about hydrogen therapy as well. And it was fascinating. So that's a deeper dive for anybody listening if they want to go down that rabbit hole, which to your point is a pretty deep rabbit hole, but really powerful and a really strong healing
It
modality. So,
is.
so
It's a very powerful modality. I actually went down the rabbit hole too, and that's where I learned about it. Is it an expensive machine? I think yes. I think it's worth the investment. It's something I'll use forever. It's not just a healing one. Now that I'm healed, I
yeah.
still do it every single day.
And I do want to ask the doctor, you keep referencing Dr. Joe for SAT. Is that Dr. Joe Fiacamada? Is that him? Is he the one? Is he in Tennessee? I just want to make sure I get the right Dr. Joe for the
He's in
listeners.
Franklin, Tennessee, and it's something acupuncture, Tennessee.
True Acupuncture and Wellness. Is that him?
What's his last name?
Piakhamta.
Oh, geez, I'll have to look it up. We always go by Dr. Joe because no one can say his last name.
I'm gonna, just for the.
I will send you. I will send you his information.
Is this him right here? I'm just sharing my screen for everybody that's listening and not watching on the video. But is this him?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we got him. So we'll drop the link in the show notes. So it is Dr. Joe Fiacamta, which I'm probably butchering, but I got the right link and we'll put that in the show notes.
That's why everyone calls him Dr. Joe.
Yep. So thank you for sharing the note about Ibu and alpha-gal. So even if you heal from alpha-gal, they're still saying it's not a good modality, even post-healing, it sounds like you're saying.
Now it would be because it's been a long enough time. But once you've done the SAT and you've gotten cleared, it's a very slow reintroduction phase. So this is only like, at this point, I was allowed to have like 3 ounces of meat. It wouldn't be safe for me to pump a bunch of that stuff in me when I'm still trying to recover. You know what I mean? Like I was healed, but not healed to the point that I would be full on carnivore again. Like it was still, it's a slow reintroduction.
Got it. So now I do want to learn more because specifically around Ibu, right, which is, I want to come back here to that because when people listening may be wondering, well, what the heck is it, right? So I will go over the formal, which is it's extracorporeal blood oxygenation and ozonation, Ibu. But really all that means is it's the blood comes out of your body. They run it through a filter, which provides oxygen and ozone to then clean and filter the blood to then put it back into your system.
It runs it through a light too.
Oh, right. Oh, so you did the Ibu right. There's a healing light.
Yeah.
Yep. So the UV light. So there's UV light, there's oxygen, and there's ozone.
Yeah.
Yep. So all 3 of those things are helping clean the blood, remove cellular debris, right? Like dead cellular debris. It's helping
everything.
Kill microbes. So it's having a diverse effect on the blood and putting it back into your body, helping boost your body's ability to heal and really rebuilding the terrain, which is what you're all about. So tell us what your experience was like with Ibu, because we've had a few people on the podcast share it and they've all seemed to like it and really recommend it.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like it was really no big deal. So I went in because the research I had found was the best way to kick Lyme was do 3 once your body was cleared to do that. Because obviously it's not something, if you're really sick, it's not something you go right to. But once I was cleared to do it, was do it 3 weeks in a row. And people are going to freak out over the price. It's not as expensive as you might think. It's about $1,500 a pop, which is, yes, expensive, but a lot of people think it's like $10,000. It's not as expensive as you might think. So I went in the first week. You can, it comes out with like a layer of foam. Like it's called your bucket. What did your bucket feel like? And if your bucket, the fuller your bucket goes, the more toxins and stuff you have in your bucket.
Do you have a photo of your bucket, Erin? We'd love to see that.
I do have a photo of my bucket.
Oh, can we share it in the show notes? Can we put it for our listeners to see? Yes, thank you.
I actually have a video of doing it too. And then you get a layer of foam on top. And the more foam you have, that's the more inflammation you have. So my first one wasn't great. I mean, my bucket was not great looking, but I felt great. It was just fine. I would say that evening, I did it like 3:00 that evening. I did get pretty sleepy. Didn't feel bad, just sleepy. And then I went and tested again that same week. And I still tested for Lyme. And I was like, it's going to clear. Watch this. And he's like, it's not. I said, yes, it is. And then the next week I went back and I had told them I was doing this 3 times. And I did again. And my bucket was almost empty.
Wow.
Inflammation. Like there was no inflammation. Like there was nothing. And they said, you're healed. There's no reason for you to do a 3rd. So I didn't do a 3rd. I went and tested that week. Lyme was gone. Everything was gone.
That is insane. So I gotta love Gemini, which is the Google AI, because I just asked it, hey, what kind of alpha-gal interaction would occur with Ibu? And we got the answer. So just to share and tell me if this is right or wrong, because this is just on the cuff
Once
here.
you say it, I'll know. Remember.
Yeah, so it's basically saying, well, Ibu itself, ozone and oxygen and UV, is not mammal derived.
That's not the problem.
The peripheral
Yes.
components of the treatment often contain alpha-gal. So, for example, it's heparin, which is needed as a blood thinner
That's it.
to prevent clotting while your blood is outside your body. Heparin is typically derived from porcine, which is, I guess, pig, intestines, or bovine, cow lung, and it is a known trigger for immediate severe allergic reactions in people with alpha-gal. So it's the things that go along with it, the heparin, the medical tubing, etc., which can trigger the allergic reaction, not the actual treatment itself, which is why they get nervous about people with alpha-gal getting Ibu. Does that sound right?
Yes, that's exactly it. But they ordered something special just for me to be able to do it.
Yeah, the medical tubing and filters, and also the saline or IV fluids could also have cross-contamination with mammal-derived stabilizers like gelatin in
It's so
the saline
crazy
and
how much
fluids.
medical stuff is like cancer treatments and everything. If
Yeah.
you have alpha-gal.
But if you have alpha-gal and you go to the hospital and you're getting an IV fluid, that could be causing an alpha-gal reaction. I'm just learning this with you. Like literally, it's the saline, it's the IV fluids, it's the medical tubing and filters, or the biomaterials used in all kinds of traditional medical procedures, all kinds of add-ons like heparin. That's nuts. Wow.
Yeah.
So that covers the Ibu piece, which is excellent. The other thing, so I have to tell you how you got on our radar. So I don't know if you remember Nicole O'Donnell, who has become one of our good friends from Staten Island, who we just met just in the last few months, but now has become very close to Tick Boot Camp and Rich and I. She's like, you have to reach out to Erin. She is the coolest person in the world with the best mindset, who has overcome all these things. You got to get her on. So that's why we reached out to you. So I'm just texting her and being like, wow, she's fantastic. Thanks for the recommendation. She goes, you have to talk to her about peptides. You have to. So now on the peptide note, you mentioned a whole bunch before with Rich, and he missed an opportunity again to go through in these deep details, Rich. I'm just saying, I got to keep picking up your slack over here.
You know what? I forgot a symptom that I should have said in the beginning that was really bad was the bottom of my feet itching 24/7, especially at night.
Yes. Yeah, the foot pain and the foot itching is a very common Bartonella symptom.
Like
very common.
My feet bleed by scratching them. Like they were bleeding from scratching all night long. It was awful.
Oh, man.
So okay, the peptides. Oh, yes. I love getting talked about peptides.
Not just from the perspective of Lyme disease. We hear all the time, BPC 157. We've been hearing that for years about repairing the damage from Lyme and helping you overcome Lyme. But let's break down peptides. What are peptides? Because people hear peptides. Is it a drug? Is it a this? Is it that? What is a peptide? What are the classes of peptides? And which ones have you used? And how can they help people listening to this podcast?
So they're small chains of amino acid naturally occurring in our body, right? So it's a basic broad statement. And I have used and tried lots. And I'm an open book, and I will say all of them that I've tried. And there's several that I try. I'm like, nah, don't like it. Obviously, when I was sick, I used a different stack. My stack changes. Like you cycle on and off them, and then I'll take a break. Like right now, I'm not on NADs. I'll cycle back on it soon. But I do have a supplement line that's going to have my aminos are going to have a precursor to NADs, which is called NMN. That's going to be in my aminos, which I'm so excited about. They're going to come out in just 2 months.
Well, you have a supplement line?
Yeah, I have a new supplement line. It's going to be called Thera. Yeah, it's
all right, we're talking about that next. So we're going to talk about peptides and then your supplement line, because I on my list was herbs, and so we're going to talk about that next.
Yeah. So the supplements, the peptides that I use was LL37. I have to remember all of them. Thymosin alpha 1, BPC, TB 500, SS31, KPV. I think that's it.
Okay. So let's go each of them. LL37.
Okay. LL37. Now I'm drawing a blank what that one's for.
Well, we have handy dandy Google and Gemini at our disposal, so let's just go pull that up.
Just say one word. Let me refresh my memory what that one's for.
Let me go.
That one's for infection nerve
peptide. Let's go see. So LL37 is an amino acid. I don't even know how to pronounce this word. Cationic host defense peptide. Yep, host defense peptide derived from the human protein HCA P18. acting as a crucial component of the innate immune system. It exhibits broad spectrum antimicrobial activity against bacteria, viruses, and fungi,
Infection,
which
yeah.
also modulating immunity, inflammation, and cancer progression. So it's basically an antibacterial, an antiviral, an anti-parasitic, while also modulating the immune system. That's cool. That's a powerful
Pretty
amino acid right
amazing.
there.
And then thymosin alpha is more for infections. It kills infections. If you get sick, thymosin alpha is a great one to go on.
Did you Herx on any of these, Erin, by the way?
None.
None.
Zero.
Okay.
But maybe it's because they weren't foreign to my body. Maybe like LL37 isn't a normal one for me.
Yep.
But maybe because none of them were like I've been on peptides, maybe. I don't know.
Or because you were so at that point you were pretty far into your healing journey and you've gone through.
No. I started I was still in the hyperbaric chamber when I went on these. So there's a guy that wrote, his name's Hacksmith. He's a big peptide guy on social media. He keeps getting banned because if you talk about peptides, then you get banned. I mean, I have 2 strikes against my account, so I can't talk about him. But he wrote a book that's there's a lot of great peptide books. I have a lot of peptide books. His
Can you cite a few?
Oh, what books?
Yeah, do you mind dropping a few names?
I just don't hear what they're all right. Oh, they're downstairs because we were just talking about them.
No worries. Yeah, if you're able to, we can always put them in the show notes.
So
Anything that you don't have.
His book is peptide. It's linked on my Amazon. I'm really bad about remembering stuff like that.
What's his name?
Hacksmith. But I called him. So he's actually who I'm opening my supplement line with. He wrote one of the peptide books that I think is really great for an average person to understand peptides. It's like broken down Barney styles, gives dosing. Hacksmith, what's the name of his book?
The Complete Guide to Peptides by Hacksmith, unlocking the secrets to health, healing, and longevity.
Perfect. There you go. So I called him once I found out all my diagnosis and I said, hey, let's go over and figure out the best stack. And he said, well, we got to look at all the pathways and make sure that everything works together. And so he actually helped design, we kind of went back and forth on a bunch of stuff, but he helped design my peptide stack. So I give him a lot of credit for that.
Nice. So you were saying, though, it was thymosin alpha 1 was the next one, right? So that's THYMOSINALPHA 1, which is basically, these are all kind of hormones, I guess, right? Peptides are generally hormones, or amino acid peptide hormones. And this one is naturally produced in the thymus, and it acts as a potent immune system modulator to enhance T cell function, which is basically your immune response, right? Your immune function, reduce inflammation and combat viral infections. Almost every chronic Lyme patient has immune dysregulation across the board.
I think even if you were to get the flu, you start taking thymosin alpha. If you get, it's a great one to take.
COVID with the cytokine storm, right? It's an immune dysregulation. So
if you got the COVID vaccine, go do EBU too. So get rid of that.
Yep. So thymosin alpha, I feel like every person on this planet would benefit from, right? So that's a powerful one.
At home for if I ever were to get sick, because obviously Lyme can come back up. Like if I were to get the flu or something and my immune system's down or something goes bad and I become super inflamed, it can become an issue again. But I have ways now, knowing what I know, I have ways to divert that.
Yeah, so then talk about BPC 157, which that one is fantastic, and that we hear about a lot. It's used to accelerate healing of tendons, ligaments, muscles, and the gut. And again, with Lyme disease, you have a lot of joint issues, tendon issues, muscle issues, and of course, gut issues. So this is a really common one in the Lyme community as well.
Yes, and so I've been injecting that one in my knee after my 5th ACL tear. They told me the only thing I could do was get a knee replacement. And I was like, I'm not doing a knee replacement because he's like, yeah, you might not be able to run again. I was like, no way. I do Ironmans. I want to run.
Yeah. You tell that doctor, nope, you don't know what you're talking about. I love that.
I went mega dose. I will never tell anyone dosing. I'm not a doctor. So I will do things on myself, And so I just mega dosed that and TB 500 in my knee. I was back to running in 2 weeks. And
the TB 500, that one is a version of the naturally occurring protein thymosin beta 4, and it's designed to promote rapid healing of muscles, tendons, ligaments, and skin by accelerating tissue repair and reducing inflammation. So that coupled with BPC 157, to your point, Erin, is a huge combo for people. Got it.
Yeah, I'm on those still. I inject them in my knee.
And then I think you said SS31. Is that correct?
Yes, that's a mitochondria one.
Yeah, it's a synthetic mitochondria-targeted peptide designed to restore mitochondrial function by binding to cardiolpin, stabilizing the inner membrane and reducing oxidative stress. So our mentor, Dr. Bill Rawls, everything you talk about the terrain, you got to check out our Lyme hack that dropped today, May 1st. And Dr. Rawls talked all about cellular health and all the core mitochondrial functions, right? But this is a really powerful one because
So you
chronic
talk about a lot
illness,
about oxidized stress and stuff.
he
C60
does.
is great for that too. I do C60.
C60. So you got
Yeah.
SS31 and then C60.
No,
So yeah.
C60 is a oil that I put in my coffee.
Oh, is that a peptide?
No,
Got it. So it's just an oil. Okay.
for
So
oxidized stress.
yeah, and that's huge, especially when you're chronically ill. Your cells are stressed, and then they kind of become sluggish, and it's the whole mind, which everybody knows about in the chronic Lyme community. So that's great there. And I believe the last one you said was KPV, right?
KPV, inflammation.
Peptide. Got it. So KPV is a potent naturally occurring anti-inflammatory, and it reduces inflammation, promotes gut healing, and treats skin conditions like acne by modulating immune response without broad suppression, which is great.
Yeah,
So
good stuff. So I think because my inflammation was gone when I finished the hyperbaric chamber, my inflammation was gone. My liver was working again. Parasites were gone. Mold was gone. They contribute a lot of mold from all my zone 2 training and sweating so much. They
wow.
think that mold on top of taking binders detox all my mold went away from that.
I
It's weird hearing what they contribute because it's a puzzle piece, right? Obviously, I do a lot of recovery things, but I keep going back to you can't do all the recovery things if you don't fix the basics.
Yep. Agreed. But I think it's everything. I think it was your peptides. I think it was your SAT. I think it was your HBOT. I think it was your EBU. I think it was all these things together. The HOCAT, all that stuff, the binders, the sauna. I mean, everything you're talking about together, I think, is what allowed your body to really, rapidly heal from all the things going on. Now, I know we're getting close on time here. I'd love for you to speak about your supplement line or what you're doing here. So tell us about how you formed it, what you're doing, and what that looks like.
So I've teamed up with Hacksmith, so it's going to be him and I. It's going to be called Thera, and so we're starting off really slow. Electrolytes and aminos, two things that I am a big believer in every day. I do aminos for recovery every day, and ours is going to have NMN in it, which is a precursor to NADs, which is really amazing, and I can't freaking wait for those to come up. And then we're going to do our electrolytes. So we have been debating on the sweetener. I don't want stevia products in any of ours. So we were going to use allulose, but I'm switching it now to this one. It's called I can never remember the words, like ON something. It's a really weird sounding sweetener, but it's really amazing tasting and it's still good for your metabolic health and your blood
Wow.
sugar. Unlike stevia, which can spike your blood. I actually have it on now, a blood sugar monitor. I'm really big in monitoring my blood sugar.
So stevia does spike blood sugar in an unhealthy way.
Not everybody. It can. It does. I feel like everyone should wear a blood sugar monitor and figure out what affects their body because we're all different. But you'll learn a lot about how much stress affects you, how much the lack of sleep affects you. Even one night of bad sleep, like if one night I have bad sleep, the next day my numbers are going to run 10 digits higher.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
crazy. And you'll notice how much more you want to eat, like snack. And I don't snack. I eat 2 meals and that's it.
Wow. Erin, I just realized we're coming close on the 2 hour mark. So if you don't mind talking more through about what you're doing and where you're going with the supplement brand, and then Rich is going to pick it back up and wrap it up with you because we generally don't want to keep you for more than we promised. And I apologize. We're getting close.
We're good. Yeah, so that's going to come out in probably, I'm hoping like 2 months. We just had our final taste testing. And so, yeah, so we're going to production right now. So I'm super excited for that to come out. But other than that, right now it's balls to the wall on the book. And I'm determined to get it out on my birthday, September 1st.
All right, Erin. So Erin Oprea, I did pronounce
You
your name
nailed
correctly
it.
again. So thank you so much for joining us here at Tick Boot Camp. This was a fascinating interview, and Matt and I know when we've had a really enjoyable interview because 2 hours seems like 2 minutes. Time disappears, and this was such an enjoyable and informative interview. And as you can see, Matt and I have very different perspectives on healing, and most of our guests are either really good on the mindset piece or really good on the spiritual piece. but not so good on the tactical pieces. And other guests are vice versa. And you were just fascinating on every single level, which is why you see Matt and I fighting to who's going to ask you questions because you were just so good on so many of these issues. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for all the work that
You
you're
know what?
doing, and
I
please stay in touch with us.
truly appreciate you guys having me on here because I do feel like my passion right now is to spread the word to that number one, your body is designed to heal. Number two, to not fear this. If you get it, you're okay. Take a deep breath, mourn it for a second, and move on. And know you can heal, but start at the ground level and move on.